Welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're talking about Mizuno's latest iteration of the Wave Sky, the Wave Sky 6. Now the Wave Sky 6 is a max cushioned daily trainer, ideally suited to those longer efforts or easier efforts. However, during the testing phase of the shoe, I have taken it out on tempo runs, I've taken it out on interval runs, and it performs very well. But we're going to talk about more of the ride as the video goes on. First, let's talk about some specs. Well, the first spec is the price. And the Wave Sky 6 will set you back $170 or $169.95 on Roadrunner Sports. And of course, I will provide a link to the shoe in the show notes below. Oh, and full disclosure, Mizuno was kind enough to send me the Wave Sky 6 for the purpose of review. However, there were no other expectations and they're not going to get to see this video before you do. With that said, the Wave Sky 5 was one of my favorite daily trainers last year. So I was definitely excited when this arrived in the post. I was even more excited when I put the shoe on my foot and discovered that Mizuno has made some pretty good changes. This shoe is a big improvement over last year. Let's talk about weight. Now, it is a daily trainer, so it's not going to be a super skinny mini. And in a men's size 9, the Wave Sky 6 tips the scale at 10.7 ounces or 303 grams. That's over an ounce weight reduction over the Wave Sky 5. So we are definitely heading in the right direction. And I have to say that that weight reduction is noticeable. Of course, I don't wear a men's size 9, I wear a US men's size 13, so it's going to be a little heavier. But in my size, the Wave Sky 6 tips the scale at 13.1 ounces or 373 grams. Certainly not light, but it carries its weight very well. Now I know a lot of you with smaller feet, or those of you that like to run in those super light race shoes to train in all the time, you might be thinking, man, that's a bit heavy. Let me just put a stop to that and tell you that this shoe rides very well. This is outstandingly comfortable. And competitors to this shoe are going to be the Brooks Ghost 15, the Nike Pegasus 39, the Gel-Nimbus 24, that kind of shoe, that kind of daily trainer. The Wave Sky 6 has 36 millimeters in the heel, 28 millimeters in the forefoot for an 8 millimeter drop. Now it's the same drop as last year, but the stack height has been reduced by 1 millimeter. Now a lot of you that have run in Mizuno shoes, maybe you can relate to this, but I often find that when you start running in a Mizuno shoe, the ride can feel a little firm. Now that firmness feeling kind of goes away as the shoe breaks in, or you just get into your run a little bit, but I didn't have that feeling with the Wave Sky 6. In fact, my first run in the shoe was a very easy 4 miles, but my second run in the shoe was a 20-mile run. So I spent 2 hours and 45 minutes very early on in this shoe, and I didn't have any hot spots. The shoe just felt great. So the Wave Sky 6 is a neutral daily trainer, and it does run true to size. Now if you saw some of my other videos of Mizuno shoes, like the Wave Neo Ultra or the Wave Neo Wind, remember those shoes were running a little long and I had to drop an entire size. I'm happy to say that the Wave Sky 6 is back to normal sizing. It definitely fits true to size. Okay, let's talk about some of these materials. And the materials I really want you to pay attention to, because I gotta say that this shoe is incredibly well made. Like, I mean it, the build quality is noticeably good. And yes, I've said that about a few other shoes. But some of these race day shoes that are super minimally made, they always seem like a little flimsy, like they're not gonna stand up to too much, even though you're paying $250 for them. The Wave Sky 6 just seems like it's built beautifully. And we'll talk about some of the materials, but let's get started with the heel collar. And the heel collar is very padded. It does have an internal heel counter, which is very rigid, which just helps to keep your heel perfectly seated in the heel cup. And I didn't experience any slipping. In fact, I know by the end of this video, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but this shoe is just super comfortable. It really does just make you want to go out and run. It feels like your foot is being given a hug. And I know that I am only going to use this shoe for running, but if you did need a shoe to give you support, if you're on your feet on the job all day or just walking around, I think the Wave Sky 6 would be an excellent option for that too. Just the amount of support and the build quality is astounding. Of course, if you've been following Mizuno for any length of the time, they are very into sustainability, using sustainable materials to build their shoes, and they've done the same thing with the Wave Sky 6. We have a recycled PET upper, recycled PET shoelaces, recycled PET tongue mesh. There is recycled synthetic leather here on the heel. And of course, you know this, but I'm going to say it anyway, that when I'm talking about PET recycled materials, PET of course stands for polyethylene terephthalate, I think, something like that. Now, in my opinion, it is the upper that gives the shoe the appearance of and feeling of a high build quality shoe. Mizuno is using their smooth stretch woven upper, which they have shrunk down to SSW, but I'm really not sure how well known SSW is as an acronym, but I'm going to continue to refer to it as a smooth stretch woven upper. But this stretchable woven upper is soft, but it holds your foot nicely in place. So it actually does this by being able to stretch on the lateral plane, but not on the medial plane. So your foot isn't going to be sliding around left and right on the shoe, but it does stretch very slightly on the lateral plane going forward. I don't actually notice any of this when the shoe is on my foot and I'm out in the field running, but I guess that's a good thing. I don't want to notice if my foot is sliding around left and right, but because I don't notice it, I suppose the SSW is doing its job. I don't know. Either way, it seems to work. We do have a TPU overlay of Mizuno's Running Bird on both the lateral and the medial sides, and the only other overlay used on the Wave Sky 6 is along the eyelet chain just to give it a little bit of support and strength. There are some internal structural things in the shoe, which again just contribute to that solid feeling of the shoe. There are some internal reinforcement along the front of the toe, and and I can feel some extra reinforcement coming along both sides of my heel, down to about here. That's where it ends. Tongue is a real treat. It's right in that sweet spot. It's not too thick, which really bugs me, and it's not too thin. It's not a race tongue, which obviously we don't want. This isn't a race shoe, but it's just in the sweet spot to give the top of my foot the support it needs, preventing any lace bite. The tongue is gusseted, which of course we all like, stops that tongue from sliding to either side, and the laces work well. The laces actually have a lovely stretch to them. However, something I did find, and this makes no sense at all, and I haven't discovered why it does this, but my left foot, I have to triple knot my shoe, whereas my right foot, I only have to double knot my shoe. Like I said, it doesn't make any sense. I know that my feet are different sizes, but they're not that different, where the laces on my left shoe seem a lot longer than that on the right shoe, but it's really no problem. It's just a little funny when I have to triple knot my left foot. At least I know for sure my left shoe isn't going to come untied on the run. Of course, I'd never have a shoe come untied when I double knot it, but a triple knot has to increase that security, right? Let's come down to the outsole. Mizuno is using their Mizuno Energy foam. That's what you see right here, both the black and the white. You see this wavy pattern between the black and the white. That's where the Wave Sky 6 gets the wave part of that name. It's using Mizuno's wave technology, which if you don't know what it is, I'm sure you've heard about it, but basically Mizuno is using two different densities of the same foam, which provides a softer landing and a more stable feeling. And I guess it works. It's a very stable shoe. Now, I know it is a neutral shoe, but it's very stable, and I think if you needed just a little bit of stability, I think this shoe would work okay for you. Now, sandwiched in between these two layers of Mizuno Energy foam is Mizuno's Energy Core foam, and it's sandwiched in between so you can't really see it, but Mizuno has created a little window on the bottom, and you see this little red area right here. This is just a little window to the Mizuno Energy Core, and that runs from the forefoot all the way down to the heel. And this Mizuno Energy Core is 293% softer and 56% more responsive than Mizuno's Euphoric foam. Those are pretty sensational numbers. This Energy foam that they're using for the bulk of their midsole is actually 17% softer than Euphoric and 15% more responsive. Still pretty good, but when they throw out numbers like 293% softer, those are the numbers I want to hear. That's sensational. When we come down to the outsole, obviously we have a great covering of Mizuno's X-10 rubber. It's super durable, and we can see just by how much outsole rubber we've got here, this shoe is going to last a long time. We've got these 4 flex screws in the forefoot, which makes it, it's a pretty flexible shoe. I say that a bit tongue-in-cheek. It is very flexible when I can bend it like that. And then of course on the heel we have a lot more rubber on the lateral side, and I don't know if you can see, but I've started wearing down the lateral heel rubber already. But as of the filming of this video, I've probably got 50 or 60 miles in this shoe. I've definitely found that this has been a shoe that I gravitate to for my easier runs, which, let's be honest, that is most of my runs. It's only a couple times a week I get out and I push the pace. So based on how this shoe feels, the amount of outsole rubber, the amount of wear that I'm seeing already, this is definitely going to be a 400+ mile shoe. There are a lot of you that are going to be able to keep this shoe for over 500 miles. And I think this shoe is going to be perfect for those of you that like to rotate your shoes into another life after you've been using it for running. So for me, my running shoes, a lot of times they get used for running until they run out of miles that I want to use them for. Then they get rotated into everyday life, just walking around shoes. So as far as how this shoe feels on the run, I know I've alluded to it, or maybe it's more than alluded. I've actually said that it feels very comfortable. I know I use the word plush, but it's not really a plush ride, and it's not a firm ride. It's a soft ride. It's a nice, soft ride. And when I come back from a run in this shoe, my body isn't feeling beat up. The shoe is doing its job at protecting me from the impact of running. Even after that 20 mile I logged in the shoe, my legs were feeling surprisingly good at the end of it. And moreover, my feet were feeling surprisingly good at the end of it. As far as picking up the pace goes, look guys, it's 2022. It's very difficult for me to recommend a daily trainer for a shoe to do tempo runs, to do interval runs, because the whole running shoe market is based on specificity. We have specific shoes for every different type of run. However, I know that there are a lot of people out there that just want one pair of shoes that they can put on and go out for a run. Whether or not they want to run easy most of the time and then take it out to a local 5K and thrash it. And my friends, if you are that person, the Mizuno Wave Sky 6 is going to work like a charm for you. However, I think for most of you watching this video, you probably have a couple pairs of running shoes, and the Mizuno Wave Sky 6 fits the area of shoe that you are going to use most of the time. This is your daily trainer. This is what you strap on for most of your runs, your easier runs, your longer efforts, and it keeps your feet feeling nice and fresh throughout. Guys, if you do have specific questions about this shoe, about the ride of the shoe, I'm happy to answer. But for now, this has been my review of Mizuno's Wave Sky 6. Hey, if you have made it this far in the video, why don't you drop a little piggy face just to let me know you've made it all the way to the end. Be kind, be happy, run well. I'll see you in a couple of days.